Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Constructing Comics, a podcast building stories one page and one panel at a time. On this episode, we have a review of House of X issue 5, Society, and Powers of 10 issue 5 for the children. This is your spoiler alert for House of X and Powers of 10 issue 5 and the issues before. Your creative teams for these comics are Jonathan Hickman, writer, R.B. Silva, penciler on Powers of 10, Pepe Larraz on House of X. Your inkers are R.B. Silva on Powers of 10, Pepe Larraz on House of X. The colorist is Marte Gracia. Your letterer is Virtual Calligraphy and Clayton Cowles. Your editors are Annalise Bissa, Cebulski, and Jordan D. White. X-Men was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and this is Matt, and I'm joined by Constructing Comics co-host Noah.
Hey there.
So, Noah, before we go into a deep dive and we pull up the slides, what are your general thoughts of these two issue 5s as we have one more issue in both series?
It feels like with these last issues, it seems like there's purposefully piling more and more into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to explode, I'm guessing, in the last two issues. At least that's what sort of it inevitably feels like it's going towards. And there was something explosive, I guess, at the end of Powers of 10. Now, not so much, I guess. The House of 10 sort of has maybe a little bit of an explosive ending, but it's both of them are sort of building up to something, I'm guessing, that's going to just either implode or explode on itself in the last two issues, and it'll all make sense. And I'm sure there'll be a simple answer or a even more complicated answer to all the remaining questions.
Yeah. So House of X, there was a lot of developments there. We saw a number of characters come back, and we get a little bit of a flashback a few pages in. Let's see, that's about 4 or 5 pages in. We see that scene with the people being born out of the pods, and it's a repeat. I'm assuming it's the same page where it ends with Xavier saying, "To me, my X-Men."
It's like the bookend kind of way of telling things. So Christopher Nolan does that in a lot of his movies, where he starts at the end of maybe the middle of the third act, and then you come back, you sort of start that as a hook. It sort of gets people interested, and then when it comes back around, everything makes sense, right?
Yeah.
In Mystery Science Theater 3000, they call that they say that's the story lapping itself. Which I think is it's not the same here, because this is a pretty exciting story, but but it is a shorthand that I like to use, that the story's lapped itself.
So do you before
that's the cool moment. I like how they build up to it. It's
Sorry, I was talking over you there for a second. Do you think Pepe Larraz gets his page rate for repeating the same 2 pages from issue 1?
He better.
Yeah.
Yeah, get him any way you can, Pepe. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I'm gonna, if you want to bring up your slides as we go through this. We start off in this issue. We start off in Krakoa, and we have Xavier and his daughter. And I have to admit, I thought that was the Enchantress at first until he spoke to her.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was too. And I was like, oh great, some other Marvel characters. But at the same time, I was like, why is the Enchantress there? But yeah, that's his daughter, whose name I can't remember. But I thought that was a cool introduction to them. I like sort of the Dutch angle. There are a lot of cool angles in this issue that I really like. That they, this is Pepe Larraz, right? Not R.B. Silva. R.B. Silva's Powers. This is Pepe Larraz.
Yes, this is Larraz on this.
Larraz is really great with angles, and this one is no exception. He does some really cool stuff in this book with switching around, making it very dynamic, basically drawing comics the Marvel way. and it works to the benefit of the story. So we get, this is sort of the first panel, or one of the first panels from issue 1 of House of X, and except with them in the foreground. And this image of the tree becomes important in this issue and in the next issue in in Powers of 10.
Yeah.
So, but you can also see I screenshotted this so you could see the thumbprints. The thumbprints. Like,
okay, yeah, they're down there. They're down there in the
lines.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if I think this is all digital. At least that's sort of the conclusion that I'm coming to with both of their artwork. I think they work digitally.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if I'm guessing the inker would makes his own brush, because there are parts where, like, if it was at, like, regular size, your thumbprint couldn't be that big on a page.
Yeah, I think both of these guys are inking themselves on this.
Oh, they're inking themselves? Okay,
yeah.
But I think they're doing it digitally.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and I think they have they must have a cool thumbprint brush that they've created themselves, which is pretty great. Then we get introduced to these 5, which I don't think we've seen any of them in this series yet.
No.
I mean, they're at least Hope is a regular, and what's his name? Not Prometheus, but the other guy.
They talk. So Prometheus.
Yeah, so the like the ball man. No. Like Golden Balls is his name.
Yes, Gold Balls.
Is that a character from the comics?
So probably about 2-3 years ago, Bendis was writing X-Men.
Okay.
And he brought the original 5 X-Men back into this timeline. Beast went back, pulled them, because I guess Beast was devolving and he needed to have himself to sort of experiment on.
Right.
And so there was those 5, and then there was a number of new mutants that were introduced in the Bendis run. And Gold Balls was one of them. And it was like, he was a joke for the most part. Like, he would just show up, and like his mutant power was he could manifest these gold balls, and like they would fly out and hit people, but like he didn't understand his power, and like nobody on the team understood his power. So this was pretty cool for Hickman to take that sort of joke character,
and
make him vitally important to Krakoa and Xavier's plans here.
Yeah, no kidding. It was. I thought it was really interesting. I mean, the joke came after I when I got to the page where they described all their roles.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was hilarious. I knew it was intentional. I thought it was a Hickman joke at first, but now I know it's a Bendis joke, which is very funny as well. That's pretty great. But yeah, so Gold Balls here, or Fabio Medina. He creates the eggs basically for the new mutant clones, and everybody else has their own purposes within that. I really like the page design here. I like the sort of circle and then describing each of their positions underneath these 3, like this triptych of underneath the spherical panel right here. It's just cool composition, and I really like how using just sort of something different to explain the story. That was a cool touch.
And it's almost egg-shaped in itself, so
yeah, it works with the motifs.
Yeah.
On this page. So we get everyone's roles defined. We've got Proteus, that's his name.
Proteus, okay.
Proteus warps reality, and then their DNA is put into the egg, and then Elixir gives life to the eggs. Then I like the composition on this page as well. Again, really cool dynamic angles. Nothing straight on. It's all very like I said, very Marvel method.
Yeah.
Love this panel, especially of Eva bringing them to life. So she puts time into it. So she speeds up time to where the beings inside the eggs get to sort of their current state. And we find out what that is. So all 5 of them come together. Hope comes together and combines all their powers to bring new guess copies of old mutants back to life.
Yeah.
And this is where we get direct copies of panels from issue 1. There's this tree, which we saw again. We saw this panel in issue 1. And we saw these 2 panels. Scott, we thought it was just a Cyclops-like mutant, but it actually was Cyclops, which is really interesting.
Yeah, cool. We weren't the only ones that thought that looked like Scott, but putting the pieces together now, we do know that.
Yeah, it's definitely Scott. And then we get this panel. And then we find out that this is a beautiful panel right here, by the way.
It is.
Gorgeous lights. Love the splatter effect coming off of the beams on Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Love the movement here. The lighting, the colors, it's just beautiful. Very great, very dramatic. I also like the letterer. Xavier kind of made... not Xavier, sorry. So I was going to get to that too. Drawing I always like to get a little meta with my commentary, but I'll get to that. Hickman having this panel be a little more word heavy so that our eyes stay on sort of the simple like visual poetry of this image. That's a great touch. So it's a little, not like too heavy, of course, but you know, your eye gets to stay on here a little longer with how long it takes you to read these 2 boxes right here.
Yeah, and actually we're doing a thing in my class where like they'll call up a page and they'll say which panel, like just real quick, don't really like think about it too much, just which one does your eye like go to and stay on. And a lot of times when we do it, it's these borderless panels. So, and I just found that was cool that this, you were describing how they use the text, but also it holds your eye because it's, I guess, like not confined by sort of like traditional panel borders too.
Yeah, and that's just good page design right there, that you have and you know what the most important panel is on the page and you make that the biggest or the one that breaks the biggest, that breaks the borders. That's just good basic panel design.
Yeah, this one kind of does like, sorry to keep
no, it's okay.
This one. This one kind of does like all 3. It's it's the words slow you down, the open borders slow you down, and then the color change like slows you down too. So it's like a trifecta of things to like pause right here and take this in.
Also 4th, because this is a Nautilus composition. So Nautilus is like as a swirl, basically. Okay. So there's this guy on YouTube right now who is Canadian. He's funny, but he does those comic artists react to good and bad comic art.
Oh, okay, I've seen a little bit of that.
He's following with that trend, but he keeps calling this composition the toilet bowl composition. And I'm like, if you go to design school, it's called a Nautilus. And it sounds way cooler. This is a Nautilus design, and in design, your eye moves faster with straight lines and slower with curves.
Oh, wow.
So this being a curved composition means that our eye spends longer time going around the picture. So that's another thing that it's doing to keep your eye on this panel right here.
Very cool.
Nautilus. It's great.
Dropping knowledge.
Dropping knowledge, yeah. It's animation knowledge. It's sequential art knowledge, not toilet bowl composition. That's my only complaint about those videos, is when he says stuff like that. This is a great panel here too. Another very simple, very poetic page, and I think Xavier's is waxing a little philosophical here as well as some of the stuff that he's talking about. This is interesting, this dialogue. I wanted to know what you thought of it here, especially him saying, even knowing I could bring you back, a part of me dies when any of you do. Do you think it's kind of like, so I guess here's the question. Do you think it was cheap to kill them off in issue 4 only to bring them back later? Or do you think it was a good way of bringing them back that didn't piss you off too much?
Well, I'm thinking that if it was the way it was done makes it not seem cheap. Like it's not the standard sort of comic book rebirth or somebody shows up from the dead. Like this has like, and we'll see more of it. This has more planning to it, more thought to it. So I don't find it to be cheap.
Yeah, it's not Deus Ex Machina. I don't think so either. I just wanted to see what your opinion of it was, because I thought it was a good tool more than anything. Probably, I think it helped to bring it up earlier in the comic, to have this sort of be the moment that it starts on, so that it doesn't just come out of nowhere when it gets to this place right here. I think it's good to establish the rules ahead of time, even if you don't know what the rules are. And so just that it doesn't come out of nowhere and be like, oh, that just, they pulled that out of their butts to save themselves. It's very deliberate, and it's cool to see that he took the time to plant it before. And I'm guessing if we reread the comic, we'd see other things pointing to it as well. It's just a cool detail.
The smoke and the mist is conveniently placed here, so.
Yeah. He's got a nice. Yeah, it said this book is really good at that. But also you see that it also helps to block out the feet. The smoke does classic misdirection that you don't notice that feet are not being drawn right here. But then this is a cool detail right here. So all of their memories are saved basically up until when they went on their mission in Cerebro. So Scott doesn't know if the mission worked or not, which adds to the fact that they're not all really coming back to life after they died, because they're clones. And there's some questions raised about that as to like, what are the implications of cloning these X-Men? And Hickman put a lot of thought into it, but Xavier informs him that the mission was successful. And then we get a lot of censored smoke sensors and hair sensors, and mostly smoke and hair sensors right here. But as we see that everybody's back.
Yeah.
And then this page was beautiful right here. Kind of almost like reverse what that other panel was with the circle, It's got this one that's sort of arching over the whole page. And this panel, I guess, is sort of like panel within panel, right? So like there's this box panel that has going on, but then this is kind of a panel unto itself. And then this sort of breaks off and it forms another panel down around here. Can you see my mouse? I'm always using my mouse to illustrate things.
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. So there's like one, it's one big panel, but then like one big panel here, one little panel here, and then like another big panel here. So it's like 4 panels in one. I really like that.
Yeah, it's and it's also all got sort of a diagonal to it.
Yeah, left to right, down to Storm, which is pretty great. Yeah. Now we're getting into some more of the religious, you had some rebirth and some religious like resurrection symbolism earlier in the book, but now you get some real religious holy man kind of symbolism with all the people crowding around and touching the 5 mutants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like this panel right here of Storm breaking the panel borders. So this is interesting, I guess. So what panel sticks out to you on this page right here? Is it Storm or is it this big one right here?
To me, it's Storm, because I feel like she's a little bit in the foreground of it's those 4 panels that go together, but there's some depth to them. So it's
they're all leading to her. Yeah, I agree with you, because I was trying to think if the circle was overpowering her or not, but I think there's still this she's still pretty centered,
Mhm.
right in the crosshairs of the page. Yeah. So that's a great panel. This is some of more of that, like I said, religious symbolism, sort of showing how they're like everyone's sort of fanatic for these 5 mutants. And they kind of go into that later as to like what their positions are. Are they like gods? Are they like, leaders, that kind of stuff? And it's sort of like they're like celebrities and gods at the same time in Krakoa.
So it would seem that in possible future storylines, if they need to, if some organization, somebody comes along and is like, we gotta stop the mutants. Like they gotta take one of these 5 out to stop this whole
Yeah.
operation.
And they established that later, that's part of so there's a bunch of things that could go wrong with the resurrection. Basically, Proteus is constantly having to regenerate his own like mutant copy,
Mm-hmm.
because every time he uses his powers, he kills a part of himself to like basically there's nothing. So there's that. And then like you said, if you kill one of them, the whole operation doesn't work. So they're looking into needing to find more mutants with similar abilities to help keep the operation going.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, they don't know. So like if something went wrong, like if you put the consciousness, if Xavier put the consciousness of a different mutant into the mutant body of another mutant, it could kill that mutant or do something worse. So they keep repeating that as well, that they don't know exactly what will happen, but they assume that it would kill the person.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of cool details here. I like all the character designs. There's a lot of cool mutant designs going on in this crowd scene. But then Storm gives this great speech. It's sort of rallying all the mutants together about how great they are and how they've defeated the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have your favorite page with
Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler conveniently kept the book rated teen. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a pretty like very again like very heroic page right here. Very Marvel composition, low angle, Dutch angle, and stuff like that. It's pretty good composition, and I just love stuff with trees as well. It's just beautiful how it's drawn. Then we got some 9-panel grids, very well composed around a central image of Storm. But I also like, this is very Tom King almost in this 9 panels, because you have these beats, like there's a rhythm to this. So Hickman going a little Tom King, because Tom King uses his 9-panel grids to sort of establish a rhythm and a beat, with repeated dialogue, repeated imagery, with certain patterns like, close up, wide. There's a little bit of that going on here, but also you have this sort of call and response that Storm is doing with the crowd of mutants, and it repeats over the next couple of pages.
Yeah, and with that 9 panels, like there's almost like a pattern in the colors. We go sort of that purplish to the green, and then almost like framed in the purple at the corner. So it's quick beats, but it's almost like you're here now, you're with this person. So it's all around pretty great.
Yeah, it's a well balanced. Yeah, I didn't notice that at first, but yeah, there's a definite rhythm throughout the whole thing, and even the colors play into that. That's a good note. That's really great. Good eye. Then just a close up on that panel. There's another 9 panels. Mm-hmm. You're right. Same thing on this one almost. I mean, it's a little, but
it gets darker when Monet is like the one that's like not into it, like all the touchy feely stuff. So like the coloring almost fits. It's like everybody is thrilled, the plan is working, and then you just sort of have this small dark moment where one of them is not really, just due to the personality, is just not really into it right now.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, more of these. Yeah, I just sort of like how artists decide to go with find different ways of drawing the same image, So I like that these three beats right here are all
Hmm.
drawn from different angles, and yeah, creative design. And then Xavier and Magneto have a quiet moment, talking about how good of a job they did.
Hmm.
And then I think this is sort of like they should have killed us all when they had the chance. That's a famous line from the movies. Well, like Magneto shouts that a couple of times. He says, "You should have killed me when you had the chance." So I'm wondering if that's a callback. Probably not, but and Magneto may have said that a lot in the comics as well. But
Well, yeah, and with his history, he's got the history, the WW2
yeah,
history, and a number of groups have come at him, um, you know, and come at mutants through the X-Men timeline. So yeah, he's there's been a lot of people who've come to kill him, and they haven't done it. So it's sort of harkening back to that history that he has as well.
so true, so true. Yeah, and then finally we get this final mutants, which is pretty epic. Wide shot with all the fists in the air, and you get to like all the different mutant powers. You got some classic metal, fire, glowy purpley, and then this awesome rock fist right here. It's a cool moment. And this is very religious right here.
Yeah.
Everyone reaching towards them, again, putting on the symbolism, backlighting, heavenly looking stuff. So
They still haven't given them any uniforms, any robes to throw over them.
well, that might be another religious thing, right?
True.
All the classic religious art, no one's wearing any clothes. So that might be another nod to that. So yeah, so I guess I was going to point that out. I guess on the your favorite page is very reminiscent of something like the Sistine Chapel or something like that.
You even have an angel flying in the background.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, nudity. It's what's for breakfast. But then we cut to the United Nations, which is something we haven't really talked about since the first issue as well, which what the results with all the UN visiting Krakoa, trying to acknowledge them as a sovereign nation and whatnot.
Yes.
We find out Emma Frost's position in that. So she has an exchange with Xavier telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
Cool exchange. I really like this page. I like especially this center panel, which I think is what drew me, of course. So breaking the panel borders, and then but then having this moment where they're both talking with each other in like sort of in their psychic space, and the colors sort of change just to show where the conversation's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. Yeah, I just love that, him breaking in, and this sort of him breaking the panel borders, sort of symbolizing that he's sort of breaking the border between space to speak telepathically.
Yeah, like he's everywhere
He's
all the
everywhere.
time.
Yeah. And yeah, I just like it's cool to see them both having this moment of truce again. There's a history between these two characters, of course, as hero and villain, and it's cool to see the two telepaths getting along.
Yeah, and just sort of as a costuming thing, like the fact that like Emma's at the UN and she's in a pantsuit, but it's still sort of like I'm Emma Frost. This is how I wear a pantsuit when I go to the UN was pretty funny.
I also like just the little things of distinguishing silhouettes between characters. I like that he's wearing black and she's wearing white. Simple stuff like that. It's cool to show you that they're at odds. They've been at odds, just little visual things, but at this brief moment, they're at peace with each other. And they kind of do that with him and Magneto as well.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that until right now. This is a cool panel, I thought. I really like the framing right here of Wolverine. It's kind of a warrior shot of him, very dramatic.
Yeah, everything sort of pointing towards him. The trees, the lights. He's centered. Even the foil, the bushes and stuff are all sort of pointing to him.
Yeah, I like this sort of the lone wolf panel right here. It's very Wolverine. It's very cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of truces between heroes and villains, we get a lot of villains coming through the gateways. We got Mr. Sinister. We've got um, is that is that is this Shaw right here? I
I
guess Black King.
I don't know the samurai ninja guy sort of right behind him to the that is the Kraken. That's the only one I recognize from that.
Okay. And then, of course, Apocalypse comes through and has a cool exchange. This page is awesome. This is my favorite one, I think, in the whole book, this issue. Uh, I like, I love the composition of mainly these three panels right here.
Mm-hmm.
I love that this giant, of course, we get this, again, a very Nautilus style, like swirly composition
Yeah.
into him on the center point. But then we got this nice bird leading you off right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it kind of goes around and then back in and then out again. So yeah, it's cool that leads into this page. And then you follow the birds here around, and then this bird is pointing directly at Wolverine. And then you follow Wolverine's shape down into Apocalypse. It's really cool composition between these three panels.
Yeah, that is pretty good design there.
I also like that the birds kind of go nuts when Apocalypse shows up, because he's sort of the god mutant, right? So everything sort of goes into chaos, but then like he can control it and it all comes to him and he's makes it orderly. But then he makes a grand speech with all the mutants coming through. Then Magneto makes him swear that he's going to follow the rules. Love the cross-hatching right here on Apocalypse's face, and then on the armor right here as well. Great shadows on Magneto as well on his helmet. Love the lights right here going up. Then this is the last page of the issue and the first full like spread, like I guess like single page splash page in the whole series. Am I right?
I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have Xavier shaking hands with Apocalypse, saying "Welcome home," and that's where we end this issue.
Yeah, very cool way to end the book. Basically, almost on a good note. That's like, oh, everything seems to be going all right, but there's still this weird feeling with Xavier, right? That we don't know really what's going on.
Yeah, and with this issue, it seems like Hickman has sort of found a way to get rid of all X-Men continuity when he's going to start over. I mean, anybody can be back. Everybody's back. All the old sort of squabbles, all the old alliances, they're all gone. Everybody's together. So this new X-Men universe could spin in any number of directions. Somebody could break off, somebody could get upset with somebody, and we could have a totally different dynamic than we'd seen before.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's like, yeah, I guess that's a good way of looking at it, that now that everybody's at peace, anybody could go to war, right? The cool thing about, oh man, I had a good thought and I forgot about it already. It'll come to me eventually. I just like the colors on this page. Love the red and the green in the background right here. It's nice to use that. It's always great to see people use red and green, but it'd be more of like a teal, which really makes the red orange sort of pop on this page. Yeah, it's pretty great. I guess the big question about, I was going to expound on that everybody can come back, including the people, all the millions of mutants that were killed when Scarlet Witch said no more mutants. I think that was something that they established in this issue, is the possibility of bringing back mutants that were killed in like the mass genocides and stuff like that. So that's something that they're working towards. At least Xavier is working towards getting, like, rebuilding hundreds of thousands of mutants. So that's the end of the issue.
And I think we get a little bit as we go into the next issue, we get a little bit of backstory on how he's going to be able to do that and a little bit more.
Yeah, so we get first. It starts off with this underwater meeting with Forge, and you get some cool close-ups at the beginning, not showing all who's there, but I love how he uses how Silva used screen tones to make the sort of underwater light on the hands right here.
Yeah,
it's a cool touch. And then he used thumbprint also to get that cool wavy light, like it's being lit underwater and that the light's changing. And then we see that he's meeting with Forge. I also like how this looks like a colorist job right here, making the water sort of, more transparent and maybe more opaque when, at different points at different places. It must have been a fun one to draw, all the sea creatures and everything.
Yeah. I guess artists don't like drawing horses, but a couple of tortoises and sharks are okay.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of detail on this page. That's what's amazing about this whole series is how full of lines each page is. And that it's been only 2 artists is pretty great. That must have meant they had a lot of time to work on these books to fill it with as much detail as possible. Like this panel right here of Xavier talking about how he'd like to have 5 backups of each mutant. A lot of great expressions from Silva right here. There's almost it's not a sinister plan, but it's a very almost like, and it's not diabolical face, but it's very confident. The vibe that Xavier's giving off in these couple panels.
Yeah, it's for every sort of like obstacle Forge throws out, like, this is going to be an issue, or you don't have enough resources for this. He's always got a quick, oh, I have that planned out, or, oh, I have that covered. So that's like, with his dialogue and with his facial expressions, we're seeing that he's one step ahead of everybody, and he's confident in what he's asking for.
Yeah. This is a great page, great panel design. And now that you've mentioned breaking panel borders, that's all I can think about. But I like these 2 panels right here. I liked them being sort of like stair steps, but in one panel, almost like one panel split into 2 parts. But how you would normally do it, like if you were doing like a 9-panel grid, they would sort of be perpendicular and all the same size, and you would have one space and different moments split into it. I like how he keeps the composition moving with the panel shapes moving down, and then the composition, of course, goes straight this way. It's a zigzag, right?
Yeah, and it's along their sight line too. Like,
yep.
Forge is high or standing. Xavier's obviously sitting in his chair, and so like their sight line leads us through these 2 panels.
Yeah, and I like and then Xavier's form, his arm leads you down to the center panel.
Yeah,
that our eyes automatically drawn to because it breaks the panel borders. Then we cut to a museum where Emma Frost is hanging out. Again, I like the composition of this page. More religious symbolism. But this right here showing sort of the state of things, like, the statue of an angel, but it's like missing limbs, maybe sort of maybe a metaphor for where the universe is at this point, right? So this is before Krakoa has been fully established and fully fully operational. So you get this sort of like image of art that's representing the state of things in the X-Men universe. So there's still this like heavenly creature, but it's not complete.
Yeah.
And I love this shot of the Louvre right here with the light coming off of it. It's just really beautiful lighting. like this wide shot establishing Emma where she is,
Mm-hmm.
maybe taking in the state of things. Then Xavier shows up. Then Magneto shows up. They have a conversation about Krakoa, about how he wants to use the Hellfire to distribute the drugs that they were using to bargain in order to get Krakoa to be recognized as a sovereign state in the UN.
Mm-hmm.
Then this panel, I thought her hand was a little weird and how big it was in comparison to things. This one was that was a little weird. Not that I'm that good at that either, but her hand was a little large right there, I thought.
Yeah, now that you point that out, I can see that, but
yeah.
And
it's not the worst I've seen ever, so it's still a beautiful page, and her expression was really good.
Yeah. But Emma's playing hardball with Eric and Charles here.
Yep. So she's sort of talking about how crazy they are, about what what it would take for them to build sort of a sovereign nation, and she doesn't believe that they can do it. I just got done watching Breaking Bad, so I thought she looked a lot like Skylar White on this page right here. She's kind of giving off the Skylar White vibes.
A little bit.
Yeah. Then this is a cool sequence of panels, I thought, right here. So we start on this close-up of her face.
Yeah.
Then we get closer in on Magneto right here as he's about to make his points about how Krakoa is going to expand. And then we get even closer when he talks about how serious their plans are and how close they are onto implementing their plans.
Yeah, and then, on the page as the page as a total, sort of like their faces line up, Emma's, and then the in on Magneto, and even in closer on Magneto. So that there's design and symmetry there.
Yeah, there is. And then to make the impact fully, to pause for the impact, pause for the full drama, you cut to a wide right after it. So for her reaction shot, which was really cool, I thought, makes it sink in really well.
Yeah, it's again, I'm going back to the writing class that I'm taking now, but they're one of the things they told us was to use contrast in like the panels, like if you're in, then go out, then go back in, medium and stuff. So it's sort of like it's creating the illusion of like we're moving along with them, like we were here, now we're out. So it's another way to sort of imply movement through the book. So yeah, so from moving from that close in on Magneto's eyes to the wide shot, and it's a page turn. Gives us a lot of feeling of movement.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially during a dialogue scene where no one is moving, that your camera is moving. That means a lot.
Yeah.
I heard one of the biggest complaints about the most recent X-Men film was that there was a lot of scenes where people were just talking to each other. And when they were talking, it was just shot, reverse shot. So, medium close-up on Xavier talking to Magneto and a medium close-up on him, or over the shoulder for like 5-minute sequences.
Oh, wow.
Just people talking. And so it's interesting that this comic is doing something way better and something way more dynamic with its talking scenes. And I'll even bring up something again. Okay, I'll talk about Tom King. I love Tom King. But one of the most disappointing comics I've ever read as far as its ending goes is Sheriff of Babylon. And that book, how the answers to the mystery come about is just two guys having a shot, reverse shot conversation for like 7 to 8 pages at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the most non-dramatic, most anticlimactic way of doing things, and it comes all at once. There's no show and don't tell. There's no flash backwards, like barely any of that. It's just people talking back and forth. And it's deliberate, and maybe I need to give more thought into it, but it would have been nice, even in a 9 panels, to switch it up every once in a while. because even Alan Moore understood that with Watchmen when Ozymandias is giving his 9-panel grid explanation of what he did. There's a lot of show don't tell. So, in that, while Ozymandias is explaining everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cool close-up right here on Magneto's hand, sort of showing what Krakoa has to offer.
If we go back real quick to that,
yeah,
the hand, so we talked about it earlier, where there was the spot on the page where you rested again.
Yeah,
biggest panel, a color change, and no borders. So it's sort of a theme that's going through, but it's a design element as well. But it's showed up here again.
I also like how muted colors or secondary or more monochromatic colors.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of this being very gray and this light blue right here, making the purple and yellow here pop really well. And
Mm-hmm.
purple and yellow are complements of each other, so that really works to its benefit and makes it really dazzling to your eye. So it makes it easier for you to just be drawn to this immediately. So good composition, also good foreshortening. I like this angle of the hand right here and how the fingers work here. So you actually get to see almost every finger. I like how he even did that detail of the pinky sticking out right here. That's just well-drawn hands. Always amazed by that.
Me too.
This is a very Game of Thrones looking panel right here. With Emma Frost looking over Krakoa and her furry coat.
Yeah.
This is a really cool shot. Love the draw. I love how this is framed, and I love the flowy. I love how her cape is flapping in the wind right here. Then we've got fingerprint lines down here.
No, it's a pretty great panel, and it's we're with these same three, but we obviously we had an establishing shot, but we went from establishing shot to a facial shot on Emma to all right, this is where they are in Krakoa. So again, just sort of shifting the focus and the timeline and the location. The colors change, and all that stuff. So it all goes together.
There's also a bit of the 70-30 rule going on here, where your eyes drawn not only, of course, to the image that's centered around it, but also to the brightest spot on the page, which is Emma right here. And then we get this great exchange between them, talking about what Xavier and Magneto need from Emma and the Hellfire Club, talking about how there's 12 places on the council, and 2 of them belong to the Hellfire Club. And there's a great 9-panel exchange, dialogue. Again, the camera moving around. There's still a bit of rhythm, kind of like what we had in the last issue. And then, of course, this is where Xavier explains that they have 12 seats, and they're offering 2 to the Hellfire Club. This is a cool panel. I like this design right here, having the screen tones in the background, and then this being inset, or being a panel that sort of rises from that shadow being cast by it.
Yeah, I didn't notice that on first read, but yeah, now I see that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I screenshot this because it was a cool reveal. It was the cool setup before the reveal. But that is a cool moment, again, to give it weight, to give it, show that something important's about to happen. Then, to make it even more impactful, they pause for effect with this silent panel right afterwards. Then they reveal that they want Sebastian Shaw back into the Hellfire Club. And you get this panel, which is a nice silhouette, nice gradient background. explaining why they needed Sebastian Shaw because he's good at politics, basically.
Yeah.
And then I like how they put her in shadow right before, again, sort of to give a little vagueness. You don't know what completely her thought process is before you get the reveal of what she wants. She wants 3, but there's still a little mystery right here as to why she wants 3 seats.
Yep.
Then we get sort of, I guess, a current Xavier, current Krakoa, and not current, but a little before. Xavier's sending out the call to all the mutants to join him at Krakoa. This is the first time we see Omega Red, and I like Omega Red. He's a really cool dude. It's a cool shot of him. I think his costume's pretty legit right here. Then we get the Kraken. This is why I just sort of like when samurais enter into any kind of universe. So this is I had to screenshot this. It's a cool shot. Then we get a little interaction with the outside Marvel world. We haven't had this in a while. That's with another Fantastic Four character, or a character that arrived from a Fantastic Four book. We get Namor. In 1 page. I guess 2 if you count the bottom panel of the last page, and then this 1 page, we get an interaction with Namor. Yeah. It's short and sweet, but very poignant. It's a great little exchange between him and Xavier. We get more sharks. Always cool. And basically Namor asks, why now? Because you guys should have always been on top because you're superior. And
this is very in character for Namor.
Yes. And I love this bit of dialogue. It's good that you finally figured this out, but let me ask you, do I strike you as someone who's just realized how much better I am than everyone else? That's a great line from Namor right there. But I love the textures that the colorist. This is Gracias is the colorist, right?
Yeah, on both books.
I love this almost paint splatter texture that he put on it, and it makes this great lighting effect, like waves. It's really great. I'm wondering if he loaded that in from making his own paint splatters and then laying it over, because I know Hollingsworth did that on Witches. He did his own, he would splatter pages with acrylics and then overlay it onto Jock's art. So I'm wondering if Gracias was doing something similar here. And basically Namor wishes him luck, but he basically says, don't come back until you want to wipe out all of humanity, pretty much. To prove that we're superior. Then we go all the way to year 1000 with our Kirby dots.
Yeah.
And the most, 2001 storyline. But we get a little more answers this time.
We do.
This is what we're dealing with. So last issue, they tricked the phalanx into consuming some of them. Because these guys only consume technology. They don't consume organic matter for the most part. And by consume, that means they sort of encapsulate things into their own hive mind. We sort of get an explanation as to why this current generation of mutant/machines want to be consumed into this sort of hive mind. And so we have this exchange between one of the elders and the hive, and it destroys the elder. Then we get this shot, and it looks very familiar.
Yeah, and you had hinted at that when we looked at the issue before.
Yeah, so this is an important moment. It shows the evolution of Krakoa at this point. So here's the tree that hooks up to all the pods, but now it's a mess of wires. It's very Jeff Darrow. And we get this exchange between the main mutant and Nimrod about why were the phalanx there? So why are they there to consume and sort of make them a part of it? And the main mutant believes that that's a good thing because that sort of protects the life when they could sort of bond with another species. but Nimrod explains that they're not there. The collective intelligence isn't there to, consume and protect their predators. So they're just basically there to consume. And then there's all this discussion about black holes, networks of black holes, and these black holes being sentient, and sort of one sort of being, or like one being that's a collection of multiple beings. And Hickman gets into it a little bit as to like, how they're related to, Titans and world consumers like Galactus. And this is how we end, basically with the threat that no living thing on Earth is going to be left behind after this stuff is done consuming everything.
Yeah.
And that's where we end. Sort of another headache as to what all this means for the future of the X-Men.
Yeah, that future timeline, like as sort of the all the when we're in Powers of 10, it seems like we have like 3, or actually we have like 4 timelines. It seems like the first 3 are sort of filling in, and we know what's going on, but this 4th one continues to sort of expand and get away from us, which makes sense because it's further in the future. Things have evolved beyond sort of our understanding. So it kind of makes sense with that.
It does. Yeah. It's still really mind bending, and it's screwing with me as to what it all means, because I have no idea where it's going to go.
Well, hopefully we find out pretty soon, because we have 1 issue of both series to go. So I think that was a pretty good recap of those 2 issues. So in roughly 2 weeks, we will hopefully have all of our questions answered. And we'll be on the verge of a new X-Men universe. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. We will be posting some images from this recap on our Twitter. If you want to follow our Twitter, it's @ConstructCompod. We'll put some up on our Instagram, which is @ConstructingComicsPod, and on our Facebook channel, which is Facebook.com/ConstructingComics. This will also go up on our YouTube channel, since this was a very visually heavy with the slides, and you can find that at YouTube under the name of Constructing Comics. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and the next time we do a House of X Powers of 10 recap, we will have the series completed, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be back with another episode very soon.